To err is human. I will show you 10 biggest blunders in chess history today. The idea is not to shame those players, but to learn how humans make mistakes and how we can get better in the blunder check process. It's white to play here, folks. This is number 10. We will begin from number 10 all the way to the biggest blunders in chess history. Please bear with me for the entire video. I will stop at the key moments and give you a chance to maybe do better than those masters who blundered in those moments. I'm now working on a blunder check course on Chessable. That's why I compiled these exercises and we will go through the thought process, and I'm expecting your feedback on your ideas of why these people blundered at these moments. Okay, folks, this is number 10. Carlsen Aronian, 2018 Blitz game. Aronian just played the move g4. Tell me the correct response for white in this position, folks. Yes, the correct response is f takes g4, h takes g4, h takes g4, and this is a drawn endgame. Black will draw with best play, but Magnus should not have lost this game. Now, going back to this position, number 10 in this list is Carlsen's move h takes g4, which allowed, you tell me, h4, and now the king is no longer inside the box. No one can stop the h-pawn from promoting. Incredible slip from Magnus. By taking with the h-pawn here, he's allowing and blundering an unstoppable passed pawn, and that's always a key question in the endgames. As a result of my next move, am I allowing an unstoppable passed pawn? This question should have prevented Magnus from this blunder. Of course, that's a blitz game. He only took maybe 3 to 4 seconds with this decision, and after h4 he resigned instantly. This is number 9 in the list. Motilev versus Carlsen from a classical game. White has 2 extra pawns in this position. Okay? And Motilev played bishop d6. He played the move bishop d6, and after queen takes d6, he resigned. What did he miss in this position? What do you think was going on in his mind before he moved the bishop to d6? He's not a patzer. He's a very strong grandmaster. He has already up 2 pawns in his position. I'm sure he have calculated the move queen takes g7, king takes g7, and knight f5. The problem is, oh my god, I cannot play knight f5. What's wrong with this? The problem is he was missing his knight that was pinned in this position. Folks, bear with me. He must have calculated this line before playing bishop d6, correct? Because if knight f5 is actually working in this position, white will be up to at least 1 extra pawn, and with a clearly winning endgame, don't you think? Knight f5, king takes h7 takes, I'm hitting your rook, I'm hitting this pawn, I'm hitting this pawn. Beautiful looking endgame for white with a clear advantage. What he slipped in his visualizations was after queen takes d6, this knight is still pinned on this diagonal. Instead, if he played the move queen g6, which is guarding the knight, thus preparing to unpin that knight, white was in fact winning after king g1, folks. Now the knight is defended, it's no longer pinned. White has 2 extra pawns plus knight f5 coming on the next turn, and white has a clearly winning position. Queen takes g7 is threatened. Rook takes e3 or knight takes e3 is also an option right now. White has a clearly winning position. This position reminded me of this exercise which I recently given to you on YouTube. Remember, 90% of the people failed in this position with white, and 90% chose the move queen takes a7 because they are seeing that after queen takes a7 they want to play knight c6. The problem is it's an illegal move. My knight is pinned on this diagonal and it's black who is winning. You see, folks, it's the same exact problem in this case. In the second ply, you're missing. Your knight would become pinned here. So what's the thought process? Of course, we should at all times be vigilant on the key pieces, the location of the key pieces on a chessboard. And the king, of course, is the most important piece on a chessboard. We cannot slip and miss those alignments. And yes, your knight and your king is right now aligned on this open diagonal, correct? So it's your responsibility when you're blunder checking your moves to be able to see those alignments. Number 8 in this list is a very famous blunder by Anatoly Karpov. With black in this position, he played the move bishop d6, folks. What is wrong with this move? It looks like a beautiful positional move, right? The bishop is controlling f4, maybe it will go to e5, dark square control, cooperation with that knight. What is wrong with this move? You tell me why that move was a blunder. Folks, that's a blunder because black is creating two loose pieces in this position. And loose pieces drop off in chess. Larry Christensen with white pieces. In a classical game, he played the move queen d1 and Anatoly Karpov resigned instantly. Incredible. The quickest defeat in Karpov's career, and a queen retreat, backward attack can easily be missed. To my mind, also psychologically, right, he's missing the queen move. The queen already moved to c2. That also becomes more difficult to calculate. Especially backward attacks like this can be missed even by the world champions, in this case Anatoly Karpov. The striking thing is, of course, is the player who made this blunder. A world champion slipping like this is once in a lifetime event. Thus, this position is in this video. Number 7 in the list. It's white to play here, folks. It's a game in a US championship in 2012. A game between Stripunsky and Alexander Onishuk. Onishuk just captured the pawn on g5 with his queen in this position. Can you please guess the blunder that is coming, and can you please avoid that blunder? Folks, it's move 11 and white played the move d3 and he resigned as he saw queen takes c1 check was possible. By the way, that's a very typical beginner blunder. As a coach, I've seen this sort of blunders over and over and over again before. If you check online games below certain levels, this is a norm rather than an exception, right? People don't see their unprotected pieces. They feel like it's me who is attacking the queen. In this case, that's also about patterns, right? Because in the opening, usually the bishop on c1 is a protected piece, either by the queen, which is usually placed on b1, or once knight moves, my rook will be guarding the bishop too. So it's sort of an Einstellung effect, right? Those established patterns is stopping the very strong player, white player, in not seeing the bishop being a loose piece in this position. Yes, the bishop on c1 is loose because it attacked 0 times and defended 0 times right now. But the moment you play d3, the bishop is becoming a hanging piece because it's right now attacked by the queen on g5. Number 6 in this list is a blunder by Bent Larsen, the best Danish player of all times. It's an incredible slip. Black to play. Can you guess the blunder which happened in the game? Just like in the previous position, he makes a pawn move and allows a piece to be captured. Yes, folks, he played the incredible move e takes d5 and he blundered his queen. You see, the pawn was on e6. There was an alignment between those queens. Larsen takes on d5 and after queen takes d7, of course, he's totally lost. Maybe he thought this is a back rank mate. The problem is it's not a back rank mate and black lost the queen for the rook and resigned in his position. Just like in the previous example, folks, it's a pawn move that allows a capture. He's oblivious to the presence of the queen on g4, most likely. And the best move for black was probably to play f5 first, chase the queen away, and then play e5. White is slightly better because of the knight on a5, but at least black is still in the game, right? Number 5 in the list, Portish Spassky. The world champion Spassky blunders in this position. Black to play. Positional evaluation, please. What are your observations about this position? Who is better and why? Let's start with that. And maybe then you can first avoid the blunder, but also maybe find the best move for black in this position, which would give an advantage to Spassky. Folks, let's do it together. Beautiful central control for black. Beautiful knight on e5. Pieces are coordinated. And you look at the white pieces, split rooks. The queen is strangely placed on a4. There is no threat we are facing. The knight is terrible on d2. So positional evaluation is telling us that black is better in this position. If black played the move f4 in this case, beautiful move, activation move. I'm also weakening your king as a result. After g takes f4, knight g6, everything is collapsing on the king side. Look at this. Black is having a beautiful game. Spassky in the actual game, after he saw the move queen a4, he played the move knight d3. He played the move knight d3. He wants to exploit the pin on the e-file. Once the rook moves, he will take on e2 and cash in to the position. Can you tell me what he's missing with knight d3, folks? Yes, he's missing that this rook can capture that knight on d3. And Spassky resigned against Lajos Portish in this Spassky-Portish match in 2007. We are talking about the classical game. And a world champion is blundering like that. You tell me why he blundered. To my mind, it's a far away rook, right? This rook is not visible to Spassky's mind. The rook is also very strangely placed on a3. Usually such rooks is not placed on a3. So patterns is also stopping him, I think, from seeing that rook. But also it's like a distant rook that comes out of nowhere kind of a situation, right? People, also beginners, they tend to miss distant pieces, sniper bishops on the other side of the board. They can be easily missed and they blunder lots of times with missing such pieces. A world champion blundering a rook like this, it's extremely unusual, especially given this was played in a classical game. You tell me, why do you think he blundered in this case, folks? Number 4 in this list, Samuel Reshevsky versus Savon from 1973. White to play, folks. Reshevsky, in a bad position, he managed to swindle his opponent and reached this position. The black king is not safe at all. Look at the white pieces. Look at those concentration of the white pieces. Surely there should be a mating attack that is going on. It's your task right now to find the best move for white. There are a couple of good solutions. And can you please avoid the blunder as well? That's a beautiful connection to previous example, by the way, folks. Yes, you're a great player if you find the entire line of g5 check. You will be mating the black king very, very soon. If they take with the bishop, that's easy because now the black king cannot escape like that. Beautiful mate. And after king takes g5, you tell me the finish. h4 check, beautiful move. If that pawn is captured, then queen f4 is a very nice mate. So after king h6, the problem remains. The black king cannot escape and it's a beautiful checkmate. Well, there was also an alternative, by the way, folks. After king h6, you're also a great player, I would say, if you find the resource. Rook h8 check, king g5. What's the next move? Of course, h4 check. The king has to capture that pawn. And then comes the beautiful mate in 2 with rook takes h5, gh, and queen takes h5. And it's a beautiful mate. Reshevsky could have mated the black king in 4 moves here. And can you imagine the blunder he made in the actual game? Oh my god, he plays the move queen takes g6. And he thinks it's mate. He thinks the game is over. And then the sniper bishop on b1 enters the game with bishop takes g6. Spassky, one of the best players of all times, he doesn't see the bishop on b1 after capturing on g6. The bishop becomes a hero and he resigns. Just like in the last example where Spassky missed the rook on a3, Reshevsky is missing the bishop on b1. It's a very typical beginner mistake. Beginners fail to see such bishops on the other side of the board because they're only focusing on this segment of the board, clearly, because there are things going on this segment, clearly, and they are missing out on the pieces that are far away. But Reshevsky is a very strong player, and strong players have a broader chess vision, right? They encode pieces on the board very easily, and they don't need to look at the entire board at all times. This bishop should be encoded in Reshevsky's mind, but not at this moment. Incredible slip, and he loses the game as a result of this. Number 3, a very famous blunder from USSR Championship in 1937. A game between Ebrelidze and Ragozin. Ebrelidze, a Georgian master, and this game was played in Georgia with Georgian audience. Okay, folks? So, Ragozin played the move rook c7 here, and it's white's turn right now, folks. You tell me a good move for white. You tell me what white should have played in this position. Imagine, this is time control. Ragozin plays rook c7 and they reach move 40. And they gain more time on their clock. Georgian audience gets excited because Ebrelidze could not manage to win a single game, if I'm right, in this tournament. So he might win his very first game in the USSR Championship. and they start cheering, Ebralitze, Ebralitze, take the rook. And Ebralitze shuts them down. He says, of course I'm seeing that rook, you petzers. Of course I'm seeing that rook can be captured, but then black will play bishop d6 and he will capture my rook in this position. Black has an extra pawn right now. I don't want to enter this endgame with bishop versus knight. Thus, he doesn't take that rook and he plays the move rook d5. What was wrong with rook d5, folks? Can you tell me what white is missing in this position? Yes, white should have captured rook on c7 because bishop d6 check is an illegal move. The bishop is pinned on e7, thus my rook survives and black must resign. It's an incredible double blindness. Ragozin plays the move rook c7, blunder, and Ebralitze doesn't take the free rook on c7, but he plays rook d5 instead. I will show you how the game finished because there's a very dramatic ending too. Follow me, folks. Rook c2, king g3, a6, rook d7 check, king e8. Well, rook c7. And Ebralitze is blundering the move, bishop e5. He didn't capture the free rook on c7 and he loses the game by blundering his rook on c7. Karma is real in chess. What is the thought process lesson when it comes to this? To me, one thing is very clear. You should not trust your strong opponents too much. He was trusting very strong player Ragozin. He was thinking most probably, hey, he's not a petzer, right? He must have seen this bishop d6 resource before playing rook c7. So he was shutting down those audience who was begging him to capture the free rook on c7. He was telling them, hey, petzers, of course I'm seeing bishop d6. Please stop that. And he didn't take that rook. Incredible. We arrived on number 2 in our list. Short versus Beliavsky. Nigel Short with white pieces. How should white react to this check on the king right now? I will give you, let's say, 3 choices. Do you go king e6, do you take on f6, or do you play king d4? Can you please avoid the blunder which happened in the actual game? Folks, Nigel Short in a classical game against Beliavsky, he played the move king e6 and he got mated after bishop c8. The king has no escape squares and the game is over. A world championship contender, a very strong grandmaster, blunders a mate in 1 in a winning position. This should definitely enter highly in our list. In terms of blunder check questions, of course, what the question? As a result of my next move, am I allowing a devastating check to my opponent? That's always the key, maybe the most important blunder check questions, checklist questions you must be asking yourself, correct? King e6 is a huge blunder. Knight f6 was winning, folks, because after bishop takes, there are many moves for white to win, but this is a cute line. Look at this. My pawn is much quicker than your pawn because after this, bishop a6 is a beautiful move. h2, b7. If you take my pawn, then my bishop is stopping your pawn and wins. Otherwise, this is coming with mate on the next turn, right? This is the cutest and let's say the most forcing finish that could win the game for Nigel Short. Instead of entering this line, he plays king e6 and loses the game on the next move. Even king d4 would keep the advantage for white in this position. Hence, this is a huge blunder because white had 2 alternatives to keep the advantage. Instead, he plays the move king e6 and the game is finished. And finally, we arrived on number 1 in the list. The most dramatic blunder in chess history to my mind, given the impact, given the importance of the game. The game between Chigorin and Steinitz in the World Championship rematch in 1892. This is game 23 and Steinitz was leading 9-8 before this game. So if Chigorin wins with the white pieces, he will be equalizing the score in the World Championship match. He could have gained the title if he won this game. White has a winning advantage right now because white has an extra piece, correct? White's an extra knight in this position, and if white plays the move rook takes b7, then white is winning because if they capture on d5, then knight f4 forks decides the game. Correct? So Chigorin was this close to victory if he took on b7, And then comes Chigorin's blunder. Given the rook's location on the second rank, folks, given the pressure on h2, can you guess which blunder took place in the actual game? Yes, the bishop, which was guarding the loose pawn on h2, plays bishop b4. This was Chigorin's choice in the actual game, and he resigned after rook takes h2 because the king gets mated on the next turn after rook g2. This still hurts me, folks. So why did he play bishop b4, do you think? Because he's a great calculator, and he's calculating that against rook takes d5 as well as against rook takes b2, white has a beautiful resource, right? He must have seen that against both captures, white has a winning move. Chigorin was a great calculator. For example, rook takes d5, he has the move knight c7 or even knight f4. Knight f4 creates his fork, as mentioned, and if you take on e7 comes another fork. Look at this beautiful knight. He must have seen this line, which wins for white. And also after bishop b4, if you take on b2, again comes Chigorin's beautiful knight f4 resource, hitting the rook. Basically, after you take on e7 comes this real point of bishop b4, folks, right? Look at this. This was Chigorin's calculations, and white is completely winning in this position. But what he's missing is a much more elementary factor. He's not seeing that the bishop on d6 is tied down in guarding the pawn on h2. Again, in terms of blunder check this question, he doesn't ask himself, as a result of my next move, am I allowing a devastating check? And yes, you're allowing a checkmate in 2 by force. That's much more important than basic than all your deeper calculations that you did against the other captures, correct? Incredible slip, and it almost never happens at this level, especially in a World Championship game, that a person in a winning position blunders a mate in 2. Given the impact of this blunder, this should, I think, go to number 1 in our list. Please let me know. Please share your ideas with me. Maybe you can come up with other games from chess history that should be in this list. But these are my observations so far. I hope I laid down the thought process for you as well. And again, please give me your ideas about your observations psychologically, also chess-wise, of why these strong players have blundered in those positions. And can we get better in that? Because that's exactly why I'm working on this course on Chessable, on the blunder check. I'll be compiling all the great checklist questions to facilitate this blunder check process. You will start in a slower medium. In classical games, you will implement those checklist questions. This is great for beginners, for casual players who need the right thought process when they are learning this beautiful game. And hopefully with those checklist questions, instructive positions and explanations, I will be helping you with this thought process, folks. Blunders are everywhere. We are humans. We cannot avoid those blunders, but by gaining awareness of those, by going through those checklist questions together, we can reduce their number. Also, cognitive biases kick in, wishful thinking kicks in, confirmation bias kicks in, trusting your opponents too much kicks in, right? Optimism bias kicks in. There are so many cognitive biases that are also leading to blunders on a chessboard. Mental fatigue kicks in. In the heat of a battle, you want to play moves quickly sometimes. That also leads to blunders. So there are many pitfalls along the way. But again, as we gain awareness on those positions, as we go through those explanations deeply, we can reduce their number. That's my goal with this course, to give you actionable tips and nice questions to reduce those blunders. Please give me your ideas, give me your feedback about this, and I will catch you on the next episode on instructive chess concepts. Thank you so much, folks, and I'm wishing you all the best. Bye-bye.